Okay, so you think Cleopatra, and I bet you picture, like, Elizabeth Taylor, right? All that gold in the eyeliner.
Yeah, that's the image.
But what if I told you that's just scratching the surface?
Well,
Today, we're ditching the Hollywood version, all those cliches, and really diving deep into the real Cleopatra. She was political genius, the brilliant strategist.
definitely.
And luckily for us, we've got the life of Cleopatra,
Hmm.
queen, strategist, and enigma to guide us. You're going to see her like never before, I promise.
It's amazing how often we forget that part. History kind of skips over just how smart she was.
Totally. And it all starts with this detail. Might surprise you, she spoke Egyptian.
Really?
Yeah. Now, like, that might not seem like a big deal, but think about it. We're talking about the Ptolemies, right? Greek pharaohs. For like over 200 years, they ruled Egypt, but barely even tried with the local language,
Huh.
let alone the culture.
Which makes her speaking Egyptian even more important. It's like this huge statement. I'm not just here for the throne, I want to rule the people.
Exactly. Imagine you're Egyptian back then, and this young ruler rocks up, speaking your language. What a power move, especially compared to her own dad, Ptolemy XII.
Hmm.
Let's just say he wasn't winning any world's most stable ruler awards.
Oh, yeah, Ptolemy. The book does not paint him in a good light. Super dependent on Rome, almost like a puppet king.
Right. Tough act to follow. Poor Cleopatra. But then, bam, at 18, she's co-ruling with her little brother, which, by the way, was totally normal for the Ptolemies.
Sure, yeah.
But as you can imagine, drama ensues.
Oh, yeah, those power struggles were basically built into how they ruled.
Big time.
Yeah.
And Cleopatra, she gets the short end of the stick early on, exiled by advisors who totally underestimated her.
Wow.
But here's where we see that famous Cleopatra resilience. She's not one to just give up, raises an army to take back what was hers. This book describes how she rallied support using alliances, her family's wealth. She was resourceful, even as a teenager.
Which comes in handy, to say the least, when Julius Caesar shows up.
Oh yeah, buckle up, because this is where things get juicy. So, picture it, Cleopatra needs Caesar on her side, right?
Mhm.
But he's got advisors everywhere, so what does she do? Sneaks into his palace rolled up in a rug.
No way.
We've all heard the story, but the details in this book.
Yeah.
Talk about a power move.
It's like peak Cleopatra. She just gets how to make an impact. Could have sent a message right. Gone through channels.
Totally.
But nope, Cleopatra knew how to grab attention. And it wasn't just about being seductive, it was calculated. She needed Caesar to really listen, and, well, it worked.
It totally did.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how their alliance starts, which, to be fair, also had a whole romantic side.
Oh, absolutely.
Even the book doesn't deny that.
Wouldn't be the full story without it. I mean, it was scandalous back in Rome, showed how different their cultures were. And honestly, part of me thinks Cleopatra knew exactly what she was doing, even with the scandal part.
Right. Because here's the thing. Was it all just a love affair? This is the one who snuck into a palace in a rug,
Mhm.
What was in it for her, politically?
Oh, Cleopatra was playing chess, and everyone else was stuck on checkers. This wasn't just a fling, it was strategic.
Right.
Caesar had power, right? Influence, legions, everything she needed to protect Egypt.
So she's thinking long game, as always. And it seems to be working, even. The book mentions Caesar starts giving her control over Roman territories, basically saying, you're more than just a client ruler.
Totally. She's pushing boundaries. Like, being that powerful as a Ptolemaic pharaoh was already unheard of, let alone as a woman. And then, of course, Caesarion happened.
Their son. I mean, come on, you got to admit, even for Cleopatra, that's a bold move. Imagine this kid could inherit Egypt and Rome. Total game changer.
It just shows you how her mind worked. Bloodlines, legacy. Cleopatra understood their power and she used it, though obviously things didn't exactly pan out.
Because, plot twist, Caesar gets assassinated. The whole Roman world is in chaos. What's a queen with a suddenly less powerful Roman boyfriend supposed to do?
Well, this is where you really see how adaptable Cleopatra was. The book really highlights that. She needed a new ally, someone to help her handle those tricky Romans. And that's where Mark Antony comes in.
Yes. Another one of Caesar's buddies. And if history is to be believed, not too hard on the eyes either. Is it just a coincidence that Cleopatra always seems to attract these powerful guys?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And I think the book gives us a pretty good answer. Remember how much effort she put into meeting Caesar?
Thanks.
Exactly. Well, she does something similar with Antony. big, lavish banquet in his honor, showing off all the wealth and splendor of Egypt. She was a master of the first impression.
So it's more than just beauty, she's using it strategically.
Exactly. She understood that image was everything. Presentation, even. It all ties into diplomacy and power. And don't forget, it wasn't just about looks for Antony. Like Caesar, he was drawn to her intelligence, too. They would talk for hours. Philosophy, politics, strategy.
Okay, but we've got to talk about the elephant in the room, or should I say, the other Roman general in the room, Octavian. Talk about complicated.
It's a bit of an understatement, right? This isn't some love triangle. It's about empires at stake.
And wildly different visions for the future. On one hand, you've got Octavian, Roman dominance, expanding the empire, all that. And then
You have Cleopatra, and honestly, this is where her story gets really interesting. She wants more than just being part of Rome's system. She wants to be a power alongside it, equal footing.
and not just any power, a power that respects Egypt, its culture, its resources. It's like she's saying, we're not just a puppet state, we're a partner.
Right. And to the Romans, that was radical. She was challenging everything they believed in, their whole idea of their own superiority. And she's not just doing it with armies, but with ideas, with culture, a whole different way of seeing the world.
Wow. It really makes you wonder, what if she'd pulled it off? What would that world have looked like?
Right. It's the question. But history is full of surprises, just like Cleopatra's life.
Because, as we know, Cleopatra and Mark Antony, their story doesn't exactly have a happy ending. The Battle of Actium.
Oh, a turning point for sure. Imagine hundreds of ships right there off the coast of Greece. It was about controlling the Mediterranean, yeah, but it was bigger than that. This was about the entire future of Rome, the future Cleopatra and Antony wanted.
And the book really gets across how huge this battle was, like Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
But not a clash they win.
It's a loss, a bad one. It basically shattered their hopes of ruling together. Octavian was just too strong.
Which leads us to, well, one of the most famous endings in history, Cleopatra's suicide. We've all heard about the asp, but what's the real story, according to our source?
Right. So the book, it gives you both sides. You've got the dramatic version, the asp, the figs, like Shakespeare made famous. And to be fair, no one's 100% sure on all the details, even now. But what is clear is that Cleopatra chose how she went out.
Refusing to be Octavian's trophy, paraded through Rome.
Exactly. It was her last screw you to a guy who wanted to completely erase her, you know? Think about it. After a lifetime of being brilliant, outsmarting everyone, she wasn't going to give up her power, even at the very end.
Almost like she's saying, fine, win the battle, Octavian, but you don't get to write my story.
Yeah. And you know what? In a way, it worked. Look at us. Thousands of years later, we're still talking about her. Rome tried to make her the villain, a seductress, a threat. But her story is the one we remember.
It makes you think, why Cleopatra? Out of everyone in ancient history, why is she the one we're still obsessed with?
Right. Such a good question. And I think our book gives us some clues. For one thing, she's strong and vulnerable. A ruler, a strategist, a mother in a world run by men, and so often she did it her way.
And let's be real. She knew how to make an entrance. Cleopatra on the carpet, come on.
Exactly. She knew how to use her image, make it memorable, but it's more than that, too. Her story, it's about proving everyone wrong. People underestimated her, dismissed her, even betrayed her. And she never gave up.
Always fighting for something bigger, not just power for the sake of it.
Yes. She was fighting for Egypt, its culture, its place in the world. Imagine having that vision back then, to make Egypt equal to Rome. Even if she didn't win in the end, that ambition, that belief in herself, that's what gets us.
It's a good reminder that history isn't just dates and names. It's about people like us. We all have flaws. We all want things. And Cleopatra, well, she left her mark, that's for sure.
She did. Big time. So next time you see Cleopatra, in a movie, whatever, remember, there's always more to the story. Look past the romance, the drama. You'll find a woman who took on an empire, a queen who wrote her own destiny. Her story's still going, even now, after all this time.
Amazingly said. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the many sides of Cleopatra. This has been an amazing deep dive. Thanks for joining us.
Oh.